What's up, guys? Josh Pate here, 24/7 Sports. That's Steve Wiltfong, National Director of Recruiting. It is the weekly Wiltfong Recruiting Whip Around. We're back. I'm indoors. Wiltfong's outdoors. It's beautiful. It's nature. It's recruiting. They go hand in hand. So, Wiltfong, we got to talk about really a lot of things, but I wanted to start with Korey Foreman, and we keep getting these drips of information, which is good because it allows us to keep talking about him. So, I'm going to ask you again, the very latest on Korey Foreman.
Korey Foreman, of course, is the #1 ranked prospect in the 24/7 Sports composite player rankings. And on Tuesday of this week, Greg Biggins and I, Greg Biggins, national analyst, lead expert on Korey Foreman, we tag teamed the crystal ball forecast in favor of LSU. We went low confidence, 3 ratings, but 3 out of 10 on that scale. But we believe LSU is the current pulse for the Corona Centennial 5-star, who has been to Baton Rouge twice now during this pandemic season. So he hasn't been able to meet with Coach Orgeron and his staff while being around LSU. But the first visit, he was able to go out there and spend some time with a lot of the LSU commits and top targets in an event organized by their quarterback commit, Garrett Nussmeier. And then the second time he was out there for their game against Mississippi State, which was obviously an L, but could end up maybe being a W on the recruiting trail for LSU, as they're real comfortable with LSU. That is for sure. They like the atmosphere there in town. They like the vibe. They like the coaching staff. They have relationships with so many people on the coaching staff, from Coach Ed Orgeron all the way down to off-field personnel. So LSU doing a good job making Korey Foreman feel comfortable with their staff. They have California ties to their team now. Elias Rick's already making an impact, former 5-star recruit himself, playing in the secondary for LSU. And then Rajon Davis is another blue chipper already committed to LSU this cycle that Korey Foreman's close with. So comfortability with people in the locker room. Then you have 5-star defensive tackle Mason Smith, who's from Louisiana. Those two have talked a lot about playing together. We like LSU for Mason Smith. So a lot of good things happening for LSU in the Korey Foreman recruitment. But recruiting is a marathon. And right now we like LSU, but USC's still in there with a chance to surge. The Trojans are going to get a chance to play football this fall, and they're going to get a chance to show Korey that their football team is on the upswing because of the staff changes that Clay Helton has made, including a lot of them on the defensive side, including a new defensive line coach. And so USC, it's close to home, knows so many guys in that locker room. And so what kind of product do they put on the field this fall? If they weren't going to play, I think Korey Foreman would have been a major log shot for them. But now Korey gets a chance to see them play. And then Georgia being that third team in the mix, and maybe they had some momentum a month ago, but I think they're starting to fade back again. We've seen Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs surge in recruitments late. They finish as well as any college football program on the trail. So you can't count Georgia out. I'm counting everybody else out, though. I think it'll be one of those 3 schools for Korey Foreman. And right now, Greg Biggins and I like LSU in the lead. We're keeping a close eye on USC, and then you just don't rule out the Bulldogs.
Let's go all the way across the country, Steve, to the northwest or northeast, actually, with Taiwan Malone, big high 4-star defensive tackle. I mean, this is a guy who's really coveted too. And so this is a guy we haven't spoken about as much here on the Whip Around. So let's dive into his recruitment a little bit, set it, and then tell me what's next for him.
So Taiwan Malone is the big defensive tackle out of Bergen Catholic in New Jersey, and he is the most unique 2-sport athlete in this class, a bona fide baseball player. Wrote a story about that back in the summer and tweeted a video of him looking like Frank Thomas in the cage, just mashing. And for him, he narrowed his list down to 6 schools, and baseball is a major priority for him. He originally had a list drop to 14, and from that group, it was who's recruiting me the best for those dual sports, and the 6 schools that made it are the ones. And so you have Ole Miss, you have Texas A&M, you have Tennessee, you have USC, you have Florida State, and then local Rutgers. Those are the 6 schools still in the mix for Malone. I think he's going to end up in a warm weather spot where he can do both. And I think what people took for granted in his decision is Taiwan Malone is a huge competitor, and he doesn't want to go to a place and lose football games. But he doesn't want to go to a baseball school and lose 20 baseball, or he doesn't want to go play baseball to school and lose 20 games in the spring because he picked the powerhouse football program. That would be brutal for him. And so I think he picked the school. Those schools have a combination of having, some of them have potential to be really good on the football field. Some are pretty good now, but all those baseball programs are pretty dang good, and he's not going to have to suffer through some long springs. And these schools are putting together packages for Taiwan that say, hey, you might be doing football in the fall, but you're going to get a chance to get at bats and get in the cage and do your thing, so you're staying sharp for baseball. That all those things are important elements for him. Where does his recruitment go from here? I think Ole Miss has always been in a good spot. I think Texas A&M has always been in a good spot. So those three other schools, not saying they weren't in a good spot, I just liked the Rebels and the Aggies were two schools that were always mentioned for Malone. You know, we'll see what happens with Tennessee and Florida State and USC moving forward. And I still think that one could go a lot of different ways.
Do you remember, we've done a lot of two-sport guys. We're about to talk about one in Quentin McKinstry in just a second. Steve, how many football, baseball guys in the top 100 of the composite have we ever spoken about?
Well, you and I, this is our first one, man, but we're just getting started. I mean, you know, obviously you had Kyler Murray and
Right.
I mean, he's the first that comes to mind. Jeff Smarja, you know, my old days working at the South Bend Tribune when he was at Notre Dame, was certainly, you know, a major two-sport star at Notre Dame on the football field, an All-American receiver, and then gets drafted high by the Cubs. But baseball, yeah, I saw recently, yeah, I forgot that Archie Bradley was committed to Oklahoma to play football, but obviously he's a major league pitcher. That the baseball football dynamic and the football track dynamic are doable. It's been a long time since we've seen someone play basketball and football at a high level in college. The Antoine Randall-Els, the Julius Peppers, the Ronald Currys. So we're seeing more guys, Jacquincy McKinsey, Terrion Arnold, what's my man's name from Oregon that's committed to Oklahoma to do both the Kilborn. Why am I drawing a blank? We got him ranked high. Nathan Rawlings Caban, you know, he's committed. He's going to do both. I'll believe it when I see it for all these young men, because it's been a while since we've seen some freaks like Antoine Randall and Jabril Peppers and those guys execute both. But McKinstry's a special athlete. He's announcing his decision on October 25th. He's our number one ranked corner in the top 247. All these schools have recruited him for football and basketball. He's going to announce between Alabama, Auburn, and LSU. I'm told that he knows what he's doing. I don't have a crystal ball forecast in yet. I haven't been able to completely nail it down, but talking to people close to it, I kind of like the way Alabama's trending in that recruitment. There was a lot of Auburn buzz for a while. LSU there's a lot of reasons for him to pick LSU as well. But I like the way Alabama's. We've talked on this show, Josh, about Auburn being able to have a big in-state close, and you talk about McKinstry, and you talk about Jeremiah Scooby Williams, the top 2-4 defensive end, who was supposed to announce this Saturday, but is now delaying his decision. And we were saying how Auburn has a chance to get top 5 guys in the state. Well, then you got to play your games, man. And I'm not saying so. Recruiting is great in the off season, but then eventually everything you say has to come to fruition on the field. And when you go out there and get your teeth kicked in by Georgia again, it's not a good look when you're recruiting for these absolute blue chippers. Now, Auburn has a chance to get back on track and I think win their next 4 games on the schedule. I think they got Arkansas this weekend. South Carolina's in there. They got some very winnable games to right the ship before their next big game. But sometimes some losses sting more than others. And Scooby Williams, I was very confident was going to commit to Auburn this weekend, and now all of a sudden he's delaying his decision. And Georgia was a team that was recruiting Ramsey high, had a good shot to get Tim Keenan before Alabama came in late and snagged that defensive tackle. They're in it for Scooby Williams, and so was Florida. But I'm keeping an eye on Georgia there, who just got it done on the field against Auburn in an absolute dominant fashion. on defense. And so if you're Auburn and you're trying to close some of these elite guys, they're trying to get a second straight top 10 recruiting class. They're going to, in my opinion, they're going to have a better showing in their next big game.
See, man, you got to win your games, people, or at least be competitive, which we try to be every single week on the whip around. It helps to have depth like Steve.
Big one in Athens this weekend, Josh. I don't know. Tennessee and Georgia are going head to head for 3 blue chippers on the trail: Amarius Mims, Nyland Green, and Smell Munden. And Smell Munden's another guy that was maybe trending Auburn. Maybe he still is. But Georgia recruiting Smell Munden against Auburn, and now Georgia recruiting Amarius Mims and Nyland Green against Tennessee. Big opportunity for Jeremy Pruitt and company, but also another chance for Kirby Smart and his staff to say, they're not on our level. They can keep telling you they're building up to our level, but we just smoked them again, And so I'm real excited for this game on Saturday for the recruiting ramifications between the Vols and Bulldogs.
It's a huge dynamic shift potentially because, to this point, you're just being honest. It's not even negative recruiting. You're just being honest. If you're on that Georgia staff and you go into the living room of little Steve Wiltfong, who is also being recruited by Tennessee, and you tell him they haven't shown you the ability to contend for a championship. If they march in there and they beat Georgia, not just for the 2021 cycle, but 22, 23, 24 kids are looking at that. And it's almost like the profile of Tennessee has changed for the rest of their careers, wherever they're going to spend it. It is such a huge game, man.
That's the biggest game for Jeremy Pruitt and his staff on the recruiting trail since they got there. Because everything's been about how we're building it up. And they have the nation's longest Power 5 winning streak coming into the ball game. But huge opportunity. This isn't a game if they lose, it breaks their program forever because no one's on the hot seat there. But man, they have a chance to grab so much momentum here. And if they can win this game, because no one's out recruiting them. They have 3 24/7 Sports National Recruiters of the Year on their staff. We've only been around 10 years. Pruitt, T. Martin, and Brian Niedermeyer. And then they have other great recruiters: Ansley, Wanke, Jimmy Brumbaugh, Joe Acevet's an up-and-comer. Their off-field staff does a great job. They evaluate well. They'll be in other big games like this too, but it just seems like the timing. Amarius Mims is announcing next Wednesday. Nyland Green could announce this month. So the timing of this game and the blue chippers they're in on, this is the biggest recruiting game with the recruiting. You're better with the words than me, but the most at stake for Tennessee in a ball game here in real time.
Good old-fashioned implications all over the place Saturday, Wiltfong. You just gave me a nice little 15-minute topic for Thursday night's Late Kick Live, so thank you, sir. You can catch the Wiltfong Recruiting Whip Around every week right here on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. Wiltfong's off to do all sorts of things for his wife's car this morning. I'm off to close these blinds over here so it's less bright in this studio. Thank you so much, sir. We will see you next week.